Hello, Facebook friends, and welcome to the Gallery of Art, another wonderful exhibition. This is the show, Do You Know Her, of the artist and colleague here at Temple Rome, Katherine Krizek. And it is the exhibition which completes the work that she's been doing on a PHA grant.
Yeah, President's Humanity Award grant.
From Temple University. And it is an accompaniment to a conference, a symposium that we're hosting starting tomorrow on women and ritual acts. So the exhibition fits in perfectly with the theme of the conference, of the speakers, of the panelists.
Exactly.
And it is an exhibition which you can see, it's actually very splendid. I would almost like to use the word splash exhibition. It's wonderful. You walk into the gallery and as the audience is going to see soon now, wonderful, explosive color and amount of work, and very, very beautiful show. I compliment you on the work. And as the audience will start to see, it's a work about women, it's portraiture. And Katherine, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you're doing here?
Well, really the main goal is to shine a light on the accomplishments of women. There are many people that I really feel general society, the public should know the names of, and they don't, you know. Cecilia Payne, who discovered what stars were made of, or Hazel Scott, who was the first person of color who had a TV show ever in the 50s. So it's an effort to give me a chance to do something I love, which is to make portraits, and also share it with the public. Because each portrait has a small bibliography and a couple of resources on the website that I made for the project.
In fact, I don't want to interrupt you now, but the website is actually the ongoing actual work in progress.
Absolutely.
And if I can also point out here, the website is here, DoYouKnowHer.org, and then there's the QR code also, because as we walk into the exhibition, as you're speaking to us, we see the women, but we don't see all the information that you're going to be talking about. So it actually completes itself as
you can find out who they are.
We can find out who they are. And you said another interesting thing. Now, if I just want to interrupt you, these are portraits we see, and you were saying that you love to make portraits. And I remember when we were doing the studio visit, you told me that you'd been doing portraits already since you were a very young girl.
Yeah, I mean, it was really one of my first loves, first jobs, first satisfaction. I really find it fascinating to look at a person's face. It tells so much, tells a story, and I still love it.
You still love it. We can see that. How many women have you photographed so far?
No,
how many works have you made?
I've made 35 actually, and actually it was really a lot of work not to make more, because I've got a list of over 100 that I'm interested.
You do, and it's an ongoing list. So
it's an ongoing list. It keeps growing daily. Nearly.
How?
All different ways. It could happen. I go to a movie. I see a director. I see a topic. I read a newspaper article. I read some of those obituaries of people who should have been recognized in their time and weren't, in the New York Times, for example. Just basically daily life. Now that this topic is on my radar, I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And I see people who need to be recognized all the time. And so I decided to do something about it.
Yeah, no, it's very wonderful. Do you want to lead us in this room to somebody who's outstanding in your mind? Maybe one of the figures that you identify with the most, oh man, there's so many. This wall has a lot of environmentalists. I mean, for example, this is Vandana Shiva, and she's Indian, and she's working tremendously for food justice and seed sovereignty in India. So she's really working to fight hunger. Liao Xiaoyi is Chinese, and she's actually a filmmaker and also working with the environment and Global Village. Marina Silva was an environmentalist, and she's Brazilian. And during she became a politician in order to help conserve the rainforest. Right. I mean, everybody here is really amazing. So very pertinent topics, but also the topic of women is so now. I mean, I know it sounds kind of banal to say yes, women, but the Venice Biennale, for example, has just inaugurated with practically an entire selection of only women, I think a very small percentage. So you're really doing an investigation that is, timely for the topic and timely also for the situation, the issues that these women have been dealing with. This one is particularly beautiful, the ballerina.
This is Maria Tolchief, and she is American Indian ballerina. She was actually partnered with George Balanchine, and everybody knows George Balanchine, but very few people have heard of Maria Tolchief.
Right.
She's an unbelievable dancer. You can still see her
perform.
We can. She's not with us any longer.
No,
but
performing.
You can see on YouTube
yes,
and see just
meant,
how excellent she was. But she then became a teacher. One other theme that you'll find common in a lot of these people, they do more than one thing well. So it's not like they only did that and concentrated their whole lives on that. No, they all did a lot, and almost all of them, nearly all of them, are also teachers, which I think, considering where we are in Temple University Gallery, is really appropriate.
In fact, it makes us all feel very wonderful.
Yeah, they're giving back.
Giving back. So we'll walk into the other room as well, and then maybe come back here. But
sure.
I would like the audience also to be noticing when I said explosion of color. So Katherine, yes, they are portraits, but Katherine's also a colorist, I might say, if I were looking at it from a curatorial or from a critical point of view. If you go into the next room, where the pieces are a little bit bigger, arranged a little more, distant one from the other, so that you can actually focus on each one more carefully, as opposed to almost a kind of narrative running list in the first one, which is wonderful, right? We have this.
Well, I just really want to say how many I did, and it's only a small fraction of what there is to do.
Exactly, yeah, but it's like turning the pages, right, page after page. Whereas here you're focusing a bit more on the portrait. Can you talk a little bit about what led you to think about how you would seat the composition, the color choices, and then of course the technique.
I really love your comments on the color, because I really feel like this project has allowed me to do things with color that I never ever would have dreamed of. How I make the things, I make them painting, drawing, photograph them, put them in Photoshop, and then I can play, and then I can do all kinds of different things with the color that I never ever would have experimented with. So, the hard part is then choosing, which is the most definitive one.
So the color in some way suggests the person, the sitter. Is it something that you you feel it spontaneously?
I would say more spontaneous than anything else.
Or instinctive?
Yeah. I mean, for example, the Katherine Dunham, I also have to work from something, right? So I sometimes use clips from videos of people or, common usage, photos. And sometimes they're in black and white, in which I'm totally free to do anything I want with the color. But other times I wanted to give it kind of a theatrical feel, like you're in the theater and you have those kind of lights. And so, I wanted it to be warm.
How does it feel for you to be sitting at your computer in front of a film or something, and you said there's over 100 women that you've been working on, or characters that you've been working on, people you've been working on. How does it? What happens to you? You get involved in their life. You think about the amazing accomplishments they've done. That you walk around your life and things that they have done have touched you as well.
I mean, to be honest, when I began the project, part of it was also kind of like pick myself up a little bit. I had just completed some sculptures of female climbers, and I had to change studios, and I was like, well, what can I do that I'm interested in, which is also when I decided to go back to portraiture. But also, I don't know, everyone has moments they're a little bit low, right? So I was like, well, who should I be looking at? Who might have some wisdom to share or some insight? And so I wanted to look at women for this. If I also kind of blur a little bit with my kind of teaching life, I was preparing some presentations, and it happened to be for Women's Day, March 8th, and I realized that I didn't have any women in my presentation. They were all a kind of classic Renaissance men that you always see, or mixed, and I'm like, my God,
Of course.
this is wrong.
Of course, but you rightly said we're learning more and more about this, that various vehicles that you've used have been focusing more and more on women distinguished for one reason or another. And the arrangement in this room, then one might also think that there's a certain harmony that you think about. So do you think about them from a color point of view?
Me and my curator.
You and your curator.
Thought about it a lot.
No, we did think about it a lot, yes.
We did.
But so what that audience knows, if they've come to a few of our talks, is that from my point of view, the work of art sits on the floor, randomly placed, and then knows where to go. So it's got its little feet and it puts itself exactly where it's supposed to be. There's not a single work, I think, in an exhibition that we've done here that really ought to have been someplace else. Do you feel that way here too? Do you feel that somehow the little feet put themselves where they should be?
I think so.
They speak to each other in a way. They're not chronologically related to each other. They're not geographically related to each other.
No, I mean, in the end, it's a little bit of a free composition in terms of color, and more color than technique, size, direction. I think also a lot about the direction that the people are looking at, and I try to have them look at each other in a way.
For example, here we have the same figure twice, right?
Yeah, this is the only figure who is the same person twice, in two different time periods and two different moods, for sure. This is Nazrin Soudouté, and she's an Iranian lawyer who's in jail as we speak. There's, Amnesty International has a huge petition online. Go sign up for her to try to get her out. She was put in jail for helping women divorce, and also to help women not go to jail for not wearing the hijab. So those are like her two main things. She helped children as well. But she could have left. She stayed in Iran and she worked. And this is a happier moment, out of jail. She's like looking positive, and this is a little bit of effect of jail on her. But it's also like a beautifully, I don't know, not quite worn face, but like a marked face. I mean, there's another beauty here, I think, that I see in her that I really enjoy, and I hope that she'll get out soon.
Yeah, well, I think we've all signed the petition and so on. And then in some of the works, you've paired figures.
Yeah,
exactly. Is that an earlier iteration of the project?
I moved from sometimes, like for example, there I've got Nora Zeel Hurston and Margaret Mead that I worked on at the same time. There's some similar themes because they were both anthropologists and interested in sociology, and so I try to make them now in kind of groups, kind of friends in a way. Right. They don't necessarily know each other.
Right. Although
these two do know each other. Yeah. This is Nanfu Wang and Yi Haiyan, and so this was I started to research Nanfu Wang, who's a prominent director now. Actually, she is quite famous for changing the idea of documentaries by including herself in the process of the documentary. But she won an Oscar. It's like One Child Nation. And this is the protagonist from one of her other films, Hooligan Sparrow. And so Yi Haiyan is another women's activist in China. And she was actually working to kind of have health protections and police protection for sex workers, actually. Right. But she's also fighting on a number of different levels. Again, always in and out of jail. Right. And they have a special relationship. Also director, subject. I think I wanted to play with that relationship. So these are two that know each other. These are two that don't necessarily know each other, though I don't know that they didn't meet at some point. This is Neri Oxman, who's Israeli. She's an architect, but she's also a PhD doctor in biology. And she's inventing new materials that biodegrade and that grow themselves, so structures that grow themselves. And she works at MIT and also in Israel. And this instead is Zaha Hadid, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, but a bigger female icon for architecture I can't think of. So,
and in fact, for Rome, the builder, the designer of our Maxim
somebody that
Museum,
we know intimately.
We know very well, in fact. Yeah.
And I put them both on the background of a facade, the only thing left from Plautilla Brici, who was an architect.
And a woman.
And a woman, when you weren't supposed to do that.
Yeah.
And so, they, in the end, there's 3 architects present in the same piece.
Yeah, yeah. In a certain sense, the pairing almost changes the narrative. You put people together who somehow, as you said, could dialogue with each other. Maybe they did know each other, maybe they didn't, but it's very interesting.
It raises the question.
It raises the question, yeah. Another question that one might have is that as an exhibition, here it is, and our students will enjoy it, and the public tomorrow when it opens and so on. It stays up then for the rest of the month, so it's a wonderful opportunity for people to visit. But how do you feel that maybe the website or some other intervention you might do might in fact bring everything to a greater level of attention? I don't think an exhibition can free somebody from a prison, but it can certainly move one step further towards having an audience become aware of certain things, both in the good, in the sense of an architect who built something and so on, and then obviously also in the bad, in the sense of women who are clearly downtrodden and badly treated. So my question is, how do you envision this possibly being carried to a humanitarian level, let's say? Sharing it with other people?
Humanitarian eventually, but immediately there is the information available on the website, so you can actually search for women of science or of the arts and political women, and you can say, well, who should I know? Who's there? I'm hoping to kind of grow public. I mean, this is really it's not a conclusion.
No, it's the debut.
It's a beginning.
Absolutely. It opens tomorrow, literally.
Right.
Yes.
No, but it's I see the work on the website as ongoing and like a work in progress and also a collection. I mean, I know that you like to talk about collections and you're interested in that, but I think that collection of particular people is interesting and something that kind of sparks conversation.
It does, and in fact, saying the word conversation, this can also perhaps, or are you in some way accommodating conversations, people perhaps writing comments, making you aware of their thoughts, other thoughts, eventually maybe even reaching, I don't know exactly, who could be reached, but reaching some of these people.
I mean, eventually, again, this is future plans to see if I can manage, but I would not even mind doing interviews, and there's so many possibilities.
Of course.
I mean, but the main thing is, I don't think as an artist, if you're not working also through the internet, you're gonna have a much smaller public, let's say, than otherwise.
Well, this is actually a very wonderful way of using technology and the internet. I mean, the internet you need to distribute your ideas, certainly website and so on. But this is all, I hope the audience understands that this is all done through digital medium. Right. So it is a very creative way of thinking about how to use a digital medium as well as, various other artistic processes. And then we come to the video, which is actually getting back again to the fact that you're a teacher, a video that you made, as I understand, with one of our colleagues.
This was a full collaboration video with students from Bruno Montefusco's class, with the help of Antonio Curioso, and the idea was, along with the image and the biography, on the website you find also some selected quotes from the women. And so what they're doing is they're reading quotes, from these different women that I feel like that they actually chose. Part of the process of filming them, they had some choices, and they're like, no, I want this one, I want that one, and so they were really very interactive in choosing which one that they wanted to portray.
It's a great video, and it'll be now screened in full, so the audience can enjoy it from the beginning to the end. Katherine, thank you so much. This has really been wonderful, and we look forward to the ongoing project.
Thank you, Shara, and thank you for your help. You were really wonderful all along the way, organization, and asking me the right questions.
Yeah.
I don't mean here, I mean just like in general when we would meet, and so I'm really grateful for that.
Well, that's very sweet. We're all very, very happy to work together. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Come to the show. Where are you going to go?
We need to turn the question around to look at the harasser, not the target. We need to be sure that we can go out and look anyone who is a victim of harassment in the eye and say, you do not have to be silent anymore. Anita Hill.
Children must be taught how to think, not what to think. Margaret Mead.
The reward of the young scientist is the emotional thrill of being the first person in the history of the world to see something or to understand something. Cecilia Payton.
We weren't pushing Black is beautiful. We just showed it. Katherine Dunham.
Man's attitude toward nature is today critically important simply because we have now acquired a fateful power to alter and destroy nature. But man is a part of nature, and his war against nature is inevitably a war against himself. Rachel Carson.
The least I can do is speak out for those who cannot speak out for themselves. The greatest danger to our future is apathy. Jane Goodall.
I believe that if you just do your little bit without thinking of the bigness of what you stand against, if you turn to the enlargement of your own capacities, just that itself creates new potential. Vandana Shiva.
When you share love, compassion, and wisdom, you provide humanity with an indestructible base for living in peace and harmony. Sakina Yakubi.
I've known the joy and pain of friendship. I have served and been served. I have made some good enemies, for which I'm not a bit sorry. I have loved unselfishly, and I've fondled hatred with the red-hot tongs of hell. That's living. Zora Neale Hurston.
When somebody tells me I cannot do something, that's when I do it. Gertrude Ederle.